next question is from Kelly in Union, Maine.
Hi, this is Kelly from Union, Maine. My husband is being tested for sleep apnea, and he's wondering if there's anything besides a CPAP machine that would be helpful. He's 64. He's in good health. He's not overweight. He just struggles with sleep and snores a lot, and that's why he's being tested.
All right, so Jack, I want to run these by you. So earlier I talked about the 5 things that most improve my wife's and my sleep. We went through the grounding mat, lots of sunlight, especially in the morning to reset the circadian rhythm. The Sleep Master sleep mask is a total game changer. The one thing I forgot to mention was the earpiece. We use, it's called earpiece, Peace. It's earplugs, basically. And the brand that I use that works best for me is a brand called Earpiece. Not a sponsor. Advertisements suck. But I'm telling you that those block out any other noise that might be bothering me, especially crucial if you live in a city or somewhere and you're in an apartment building, there's going to be some other noise somewhere. And then also having a nice pillow. But beyond that, I have a dozen other things that I've done to improve my sleep. One is a firm mattress. I have a bad back, and so a firmer mattress works really well. I happen to have one of your mattresses, Jack, which I paid for. It's not, it was like he didn't give me a mattress to be on the podcast. But you make really nice mattresses, and you have, you customize it to the needs of someone. Can you talk about maybe how a firm mattress versus a really cushy mattress makes a difference for different people?
So that's the word firm is a little bit of a misconception. That's kind of the dated thing where firm is better. And it really is 2 things. One is density is really important.
Okay.
The difference between firm and density is you want contour. You want it to be able to adapt to your curves, to your spinal curves. And but you need that to be a very dense material so that it's constantly giving you support and it's not breaking down easily over time. The second thing, whether it's firm or soft in a general feel, depends on your spinal type. So if your posture if you have a flatter lower back, you need to have a mattress that you don't sink into as much. But if you've got a very pronounced lower back arch, you actually need to get deeper into that bed. So conventionally, people are getting into soft beds, which are low density, and because that's what they need for their comfort, but they're not getting the support that they need. But ultimately, the more curves you have on your back, you need to sleep in a bed. And the flatter your back, you need to sleep on a bed. That initial surface needs to be contouring and adapt. So the product that you're sleeping on is designed for a flatter back, but yet you do feel that initial comfort. It's not a hard bed. It really is adapting to your body, extremely supportive, and because it's so dense, it'll do that for a really, really long time.
That makes sense because you got a fused spine. Yeah. So, I mean, it would make sense that you need a little bit more of more density.
My L5 and S1 are fused together.
Okay.
And naturally, I broke my back when I was a teen and it sort of just grew together. And that makes sense. So instead of saying firm, maybe it's more supportive is the way to think about that, more dense.
Well, here's the trick. That's where when we get into soft beds, well, sort of at Essential, we don't make low density beds.
Right.
Our softer beds are higher density than our, and that's kind of like people have. How do you have high density and not be firm? But density is just a concentration of product. Doesn't change. So we increase elasticity and increase density. So it's basically a rubber. We formulated a rubber that adapts and contours to your body, but is quite firm and dense in its support.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go through this list, Ryan. You tell me if any of these things are applicable to you. So blackout curtains, especially if you live in a city.
Yeah.
I don't have them in my new house because we live in the middle of nowhere and there isn't a bunch of light coming in, and I have a sleep mask and it's fine. But when I lived in the city here, blackout curtains.
100%.
Total game changer.
So if I can interrupt you, just sorry about that, but see, you're being selfish with the sleep mask. Blackout curtains takes care of you and your wife.
Right, exactly.
So my wife uses the same sleep mask, and we have no curtains because we welcome the peeping toms.
Dude, we lived in a loft in Hollywood, which now as I'm saying that sounds so pretentious, man. But anyway, so much light.
If you'd been there, you'd know it's not pretentious.
Right. But like it was so much light that like, we had to do the sleep mask, and there was no chance of like doing like blackout things. But I'll tell you, like just leaving that apartment, my sleep increased.
My wife also uses a white noise machine at night, which doesn't really help me, but for her, the one she uses, I wrote it down here, Marpac Dome Classic White Noise Machine. We'll put a link to that in the show notes, but it has an actual fan in it, so it's not digital. It's an analog white noise machine, and that, for whatever reason, it lulls her to sleep, and she leaves it on all night. And it works really, really well for her, especially in conjunction with the earplugs that she has.
Dude, we get the air filters running all the time. That definitely helps me go to sleep. It's like if it's not on, I'm like, something's wrong.
Yeah, something's off, right?
Right.
And for me, it doesn't really matter, but for her, it makes a big difference. And so that's another way to support her is finding out what helps her sleep better, and that's going to also help me sleep better as well.
Really quickly, Jack, would you say there's a big difference between like a digital white noise machine, like a digital app that gives white noise, versus a machine Josh describes?
I mean, as far as to your mind, there wouldn't be a difference. But, however, you're introducing, again, more digital, more electronics, but they're to the brain, it's whatever works. So whether, some people it's music, it doesn't have to be white noise. So some people are actually just appreciate having music, and these are all stimulants, and we focus so much on that in what we study on what makes you sleep well, what keeps you, because here what we're trying to do is keep people in deep sleep and REM sleep longer. That's a secret. Whether you're sleeping 5 hours a night or 8 hours a night, if you're getting your 2.5, 3 hours of deep and REM sleep, you'll be great either way.
Bingo. A few more things. I know Professor Sean is going to ding me on time, so I'm going to try and get through as many of these as possible here. No Wi-Fi at night. We turn the Wi-Fi router off, or now we don't even have internet at home because my wife, she found out she had some crazy reaction. We slept next to a Wi-Fi router one night at her parents' house in Minnesota, and she couldn't sleep all night, and then realized like she was right next to a Wi-Fi router, turned it off the next night, no problem. And from then on has realized that even if you have a Wi-Fi router in your house, turn that off at night. It's harder if you live in an apartment building, your neighbor could have one next to your head, but having that Wi-Fi off really helps her. It makes less of a difference to me, but I know with her, it is a total game changer. Blue light, again, doesn't make a huge difference to me, but blue light before bed, last 2 hours before bed. My wife even wears those blue blocking glasses at night in case we have any sort of blue light coming in from a glowing screen or from the overhead LEDs or incandescent lights, which we're going to argue about later, Alabama. And so removing that blue light helps your circadian rhythm, helps you go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and those glasses are fantastic. They have daytime blocking glasses, and then they have the darker pre-sleep ones. So if you look at brands that are really getting deep into that, they'll have two versions of light blocking glasses. So for work and just eliminate that artificial light throughout the day, which which helps you at night. But they have some that are really make it that much more difficult, in fact, to work, watch TV, and you can see the screen and all that, but I mean that onset of sleep starts to kick in, and you gladly shut things down and go to sleep. So I think that those are fantastic to get to wearing those glasses 2 hours before,
or just avoiding the light altogether if you can.
If you can, but that's tougher in today's world, right? And but if you get those glasses on, you're kind of conditioning yourself and forcing yourself down that path. What we've seen with a lot of athletes that we've worked with, no one wants to shut off their Wi-Fi. No one wants to really go down that path of giving up all of their toys and all of their communications. And that's where we really turned to the quantum energy, and that made a huge difference on eliminating the impacts and the stimulants from Wi-Fi.
The EMF blocking that you put into your mattresses. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Let's go through a few more things here real quick, because what I found is that subtraction is greater than addition. So by adding all these gadgets like earplugs and face masks and blue blocking glasses, we don't need all of these accoutrements. quite often we can remove certain things that are disturbing our sleep. And so the next few things I have on the list here, we have no alcohol, no coffee afternoon, or no coffee at all. My wife just doesn't drink caffeine anymore because it disturbs her sleep. Even if she drinks it at 10 a.m., she notices it later that night. She's more sensitive. She metabolizes it really slowly. I metabolize it quickly, so I can have coffee a few hours before bed. It's not a problem for me, but for her, it totally wrecks her. No alcohol. She's removed alcohol from her life almost 100%. That's tremendously helped. Also, no THC, so that tends to wreck her deep sleep. And so just finding out, what works for you, what doesn't work, that's removing these things that are disturbing sleep. Also, eating before bed is a no-no in our household because it disturbs your sleep. So if you eat a meal within 3 hours of going to bed, you end up tossing and turning.
Absolutely.
So eating late is a big problem.
Yeah.
And then one thing I do before bed is I'll have a spoon of honey, often Manuka honey, right before bed. The carbohydrates tend to, for whatever reason, stimulate my deep sleep. In a way, not a full meal, but just 1 teaspoon of honey. That seems to help out a lot. And then if I'm struggling ever in the middle of the night, I tend to wake up pretty early in the mornings. But if I want to get more sleep, there's an app that I'll turn on. It's called Endel, Endel. There are other ones out there as well, Brain FM. The Aura app actually has different sleep. And what it is it's listening to soothing music that soothes you back to sleep. Any feedback on any of those, Jack?
Well, the whole thing is depending on being at rest or being in deep sleep. So once you're awake in the morning and you're just resting, you're not necessarily getting that the recovery that you're looking for, the cellular recovery. That's only happening in your deep sleep cycles.
Right.
So that's more about eliminating some of that fatigue that you want to have. But again, all through REM and deep sleep is where that fatigue is primarily eliminated. So the morning stuff, I haven't seen any evidence of being rested once you're awake having real impact on the body in your life. But
that makes sense.
I haven't had that much studies on morning apps. Everything before sleep, and actually all of daytime, eliminating caffeine, eliminating any foods consumption in those last 3 hours are critical. Eliminating light, all these are all the stimulants that have to. One thing you do need to add, which people do forget, you need to add training. You need to work out because during the daytime you need to be working out. You need to be working your muscles, because the body recognizes when it's training and when it's at rest.
Yes.
And if your 24 hours is pretty identical, sitting at a desk or laying in bed, the body has a harder time differentiating the two.
Can I circle this back to the sleep apnea thing?
Yeah.
So the CPAP, this is something that I've been avoiding because I feel like I need a CPAP. I do all these things and my sleep does get better, but I still could improve it. Is there any substitution for a CPAP if someone has sleep apnea?
Well, I'll tell you one simple trick.
Okay.
And it won't work for everyone, but I'll tell you if it works.
Oh, I love
it's
this.
amazing.
This is so clickbaity. This is great. The one simple trick to avoid the CPAP machine. Yes, Jack, we are all ears, man.
So if you can incline your bed at a slight slope,
okay,
simply putting some 3-inch blocks at the headboard,
okay,
and sleep at a slight angle,
just with your head up.
With your head up.
Okay,
yeah. So you don't need to have an adjustable bed.
Okay,
this is really simple, easy. Couple of 2x4s, trim them up, and just get that angle going. And that angle again is similar to what an adjustable bed does.
Yeah,
but we technically all should be sleeping at a slight angle.
Interesting.
So if you have the sleep apnea, that's something that is typically closing up your throat. That slight angle will help out. May not work for everyone, but if it does, that's really easy.
It's something to try first before. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, cool.
Josh, I also have some, Ryan, I also have some crystals I can sell you. You just put them under your pillow.
Dude, you have no idea. Every morning I roll over and I go to hug and kiss Mariah before I get out of bed, because I typically get out of bed before her, and I'll put my arm underneath her pillow and literally I'm knocking crystals all over the floor. I'm like, why are these crystals everywhere?
The last thing I'll say for Kelly's question, because I know we are way, way over, but is what Ryan said earlier. I try some of these things, but when we're not trying them with discipline, what often happens is, oh yeah, you know what? I didn't drink for one day and it didn't solve all my sleep problems. I guess I'll go back to drinking. Or, you know what? I gave up weed for 3 days. I guess didn't fix everything about my sleep deficit, and I guess I'll go back to it. I'll go back to these habits that are impairing my sleep. But if you find that you do go 3 to 6 months without these things, all of a sudden the sleep does begin, and maybe you won't need the CPAP machine at all. But it's probably not going to happen overnight.
In the words of Mr. Miyagi, there is no try, only do.
Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalist Private Podcast, available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.